I'm often asked, who is your greatest guest? And I don't know. It's an impossible question, really, when you think about it. I mean, what scale would you possibly use that could apply to giving you the answer to whether Orson Welles was a better guest than Alfred Hitchcock, or if Groucho was a better guest than Jack Benny? It just, they aren't comparable, I guess, is the thing you finally have to say. But I know one thing that was known for sure. The common wisdom was that no one will ever get Katharine Hepburn in front of a television camera, and it was gospel. Her privacy over the years, when, as she said, she was living a life that gossip columnists would have loved to know about in Hollywood, her privacy was practically enforced by the military. It was total. So forget about it was the word used whenever one thought of getting Miss K.H. from Hartford for a show. Getting her was really a kind of miracle. I still don't know for sure. I know that Irene Selznick, her great friend, Irene Mayer Selznick, and Lauren Bacall had urged her to do it. To this day, I do not know if she ever saw me on television or not. But I did get her, and Barbara Walters has a kind of strained look when she speaks to me still. But it was a challenge, and Hepburn likes a challenge, and she likes something new, and she likes to conquer things. And that and all those other elements, I guess, added up to it. Shall I shut up now so you can just sit back and be dazzled?
Hi, I'm Dick Cavett. One of the facts of life of doing a talk show is that some of the most interesting people in the world won't do them. One of them is Katharine Hepburn. She has spent most of her life avoiding the press, and I wish I had a nickel for every time someone has said, wouldn't it be wonderful just to be able to sit and listen to that woman talk? Well, one afternoon recently, never having been on television, she agreed to come into my studio for a test only, to check things out, see how it looked and felt. She checked the cameras, the lights, these chairs, the temperature in the studio. She pronounced the carpet ugly. And then she surprised me by suddenly saying, why don't we just go ahead and do it now? And we did. There was no audience. The laughter you'll hear is from a few lucky staff members and musicians who wandered into the empty theater and were delighted to see who was sitting here. At the beginning, the first thing you will see is some tape she allowed us to show that was made when she didn't even know the cameras were rolling. So when we come back, you will get a rare behind-the-scenes view of Katharine Hepburn making up her mind. Join us.
I see the carpet's an entirely different color.
Phyllis is a monitor.
Is that going to be with me?
That's yours.
I can put my glass of water in the grease in that.
You can have that chair.
Yes, I can't remember which direction. I go one particular direction.
Come down here. We can try both. Come on.
Yes. That's the way you're going to go.
Well,
You look nice.
You make me feel this way.
What?
You make me feel this way.
Yes. We go all right.
generally
There, together.
You
You do. No, I think I go the other way. God, are we glued here? We glued here.
It's a little heavy.
And can't we have a stationary table? Can we have a table that's...
John?
Nobody answers
Can we
in
get
this
a
business.
table with that doesn't wobble here?
Sure. Right now,
Like
do you want it?
Yeah, nail it down.
Like a butterfly.
Nail it
Mickey.
down.
What if you want to get up and dance?
What?
You may want to get up and move the table
Get a
aside.
table aside.
No, I wouldn't move
You'd
the
never
table
wanna move the
aside. I
table.
want to put my feet on it.
Yeah, it's a hell of a good idea.
You know, this is... Haven't you got something we can put our feet on?
Some
Switch the other one. This one a little better? Nail it down to the floor. Okay.
This might be
this
better.
is a little solider.
Move it out. Move it out.
Just put this out
I
here.
have a card. I've been in the business so long, I don't want any complaints from the unions.
Is that one wrong?
I'm an honorary member.
That's right, you are.
Yeah, this is heavier.
That's better and better for feet, I think.
Is this all your stuff?
Yeah, well,
On me.
I just wanted to show you. This is what it would look like sitting there.
Yes, that's better. That's all right.
That's great.
Yeah.
We should have thought of this before. Where were you when I needed you?
Well, that carpet, if anybody can survive that carpet,
You can.
we're doing well. And I personally am going to dye it by tomorrow morning, I can tell you that. Gee whiz.
Couldn't we perhaps spray it a little blue or gray, maybe?
Or put a rug over it.
Put
I'll bring one.
an actual carpet.
Whose idea was that?
What color would you like?
Well, I'd like no color.
No color.
Just go into the nothing. Let us be the color. God knows I'm red enough in the face, but I clash with that.
Very seldom shows up in the shop. The carpet.
Once is too much.
We'll get a different.
Put something over it, you know, I mean,
86,
so that
the
we're all
carpet.
one color, dark brown.
Something like
And
this.
paint this dark brown.
You got that, Ronnie? You taking notes? Okay.
Don't laugh,
No, it's true.
because I can do it.
You'll do it. You don't have to do that.
It does.
I'll just have that here. A rose? Would you
Well,
like
come and give it a pull.
Could
you
we have
know.
a mirror?
Cash. No, don't.
Oh, no.
Never face the truth. Not when you've gotten this far.
I'm learning a lot.
Forget it. Oh, yes. I've been on your dressing table, and I know every habit.
Oh, God. Say, I selected those pictures for you in the mirror.
Which one?
Oh, did you
I
know
never
some-
saw the picture. I
Oh.
just see the bottles. I know all your problems, dear. We'll have a long talk.
Oh, no. I can't wait. I'll pretend that I share
Should
that.
be loose.
Loose.
And half falling down, you know, and then I'll move it around.
Okay.
What?
It was a loose for the, yeah, it was a loose for the,
Don't tell me what's wrong, just fix it. Haven't we got a rug that they could put over this thing?
They don't have one right now. Is that right?
How about a drop cloth?
You haven't got a goddamn thing yet. I want to John Golden had a great big office here, you see,
Where was it?
right up where you are.
Yeah,
And I think, or else at the front of the theater.
yeah.
And there was never any room for the actors, and there still isn't. I'll get made up at home.
Well, didn't
Because
there
at least I'm used to running water. They put you in the green room.
was it Belasco who had a big office up in the Flies somewhere or something and used to watch the actors in
Yes,
his office?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Where was that? Is that still there?
Belasco
Yeah.
Theater.
Then what's the one that W.C. Fields was in? That's the...
I don't know.
Amsterdam Roof or something like that. The Amsterdam.
No, I don't know
Like
that.
that-
I know
like that-
Hopkins. But this theater was the scene of a... Why don't they just start? Have they started?
Well, they're...
I
Okay.
see.
Yeah. We'll be back after this message with Katharine Hepburn. Stay with us.
Well, we could have music.
Yeah.
We have the orchestra.
That's right. We can have an orchestra here.
Let's just sit here and talk.
Okay.
That's what...
I feel awful about putting you through this whole thing because I know it violates your principles in some sense, and I feel guilty about
Which
that.
principle?
Well, I guess the principle of not making a ludicrous spectacle of yourself in public.
Oh, my God.
And,
Pardon me.
I hope you're not planning to do
Is that
anything
what you're
like
looking
that.
forward to?
That's what I kind of hoped
That's
I
what you're
could
liable to get.
do. Anyway, then I would probably
Well,
apologize
my
for that.
only experience in this theater, I made a ludicrous spectacle of myself. I played about 40-odd years ago through this theater. Not in this theater. They wouldn't even take me in this theater. I had to fly out to Minneapolis to join a company of the Night Hostess, which was being produced by John Golden and Winchell Smith. And Winchell Smith lived in Farmington, Connecticut. And I'd been fired out of the only job I had been offered, and he gave me a walk-on as a hostess in a thing called Night Hostess.
The title
And I
sounds...
gave the worst performance that has ever been seen, because I was supposed to be a wicked fascinator. And I wasn't very wicked, and I hadn't learned how to be a fascinator. I never did learn how to be that kind of a fascinator. If you want to know
The title
honest
sounds very racy. Was it really a play that would raise eyebrows
Well, it was
today?
Phil Dunning and Winchell Smith. Yes, it was calculated to raise the eyebrows, and
Yeah.
I don't think it raised them enough. So it sat down. I don't think it ever came to New York. I got a better job, and I flew back in from Minneapolis, deciding that I wasn't going to succeed that way.
You said you were fired, though. I can't imagine anybody having the
No,
nerve.
no. I was fired from another thing.
Yeah, but
I was
why?
because I wasn't very good.
Oh, is that the only reason?
Yes, well, that's usually the reason you're fired.
Yeah.
I found out. I used to think it would be nice to know why you were fired. And somebody told me once, and I've decided it's much better to feel that you were put upon when you were fired.
Is that what you tell yourself in order to keep going?
No, that's what I always told myself. Well, I told myself the same thing a few months ago when I was fired, but I've been constantly fired.
And you've been on this very stage.
So I would appreciate it if you'd fire me now and I'd go home and never come back.
Maybe I can arrange something. Well, if you make a
No, I had a very funny experience, actually. I came here to this particular theater from playing the leading part in a thing called The Big Pond. Do you want to hear the story of my life? I presume that's why I'm here.
Sure, as long as I'm here.
The story of my life. So I went out to Great Neck to play in the Big Pond, and I had started out as an understudy, and I was always a pretty good flash actor. I could read a part without knowing what I was doing better than anyone in the whole world. I mean, I could laugh and cry, and I could always get the part.
First time?
First time. Never could keep it. They got on to me after a while.
I understand
I'd lose my
that.
voice, fall down, get red in the face, talk too fast, and couldn't act when they were all sitting out there. Just petrified me.
I understand that. You know that I acted
And
a
then
little
I
bit.
love these terrible situations, you see, that I'm in now.
But this is-
Wondering how I'm going to escape. It's the sort of criminal instinct or something.
Yeah, it's a challenge for you, I know.
It's a challenge.
I would bet that you've had a bad dream about how this would go in the last couple of nights.
No, I've had a bad dream my whole life about everything and how everything would go. And it's turned out to be a bad dream.
And this is only part of it.
This is the end.
Can you remember your dressing room in this theater? And did they have this carpet and these walls?
You mean, can I remember your dressing room in this theater? Because that's what
I was
I've
hoping
just
you
come out of.
weren't going to mention that.
Well,
yeah.
my dressing room in this theater, I had a dressing room. No, I never had any dressing room in this theater because I never played in it. But I had a dressing room with a man named Alfred De Leagro, who became a very well-known producer.
Right.
And he and I shared a bathroom. We had no bathroom. Shared a dressing room at the Maxine Elliott Theater, which was, I think, on 38th or 9th Street, 41st Street, now torn down. Wonderful theater, and we were up on the 5th floor together. And I was on when he was off, and vice versa. So we had a great time.
And did you also share an apartment?
No, we didn't. We
Yeah,
didn't
that would
share.
work,
No, that would have looked badly in those days. But this was accepted. And
Well, I didn't mean
I
him.
was fired out of that show. Well, what did you mean?
I meant ever. I mean, sometimes people...
With anyone?
Well, you
Yes,
suggested...
I've shared apartments with people.
I wasn't probing. I'm sorry.
I don't understand the question, Mr. Cavett.
Okay, let me
Have you ever shared an apartment? What would you mean?
Well,
what would I mean?
Well, since you said yes, I'll say yes, too.
Yes, well, we leave it with the usual sort of
Okay.
take it any way you like it.
No.
But anyway, I played, you keep interrupting the long story of my life. If you just shut up, I'd be able to...
I won't speak again for the
you
next
never
hour.
listen, that'll be the day. Well, that'll be the night. But anyway, which story do you want to hear?
Anything at all. I think the...
All right, well, now I'll tell you the story about the Big Pond, because this
Okay.
was very profound, and this was my start in life. I went into this show as an understudy, and I had worked 2 weeks for a man named Edwin Knopf, who's the brother of Alfred Knopf, and a very sweet and distinguished man who gave me my first job after I graduated from Bryn Mawr. And he said, write me a letter, and I will tell you whether we can use you or not. So my father said, never write, go, and appear in person. So I went down to Baltimore, and I appeared. I didn't even know there was a stage door in a theater. And I went in, and I sat down, and I watched a rehearsal. It was a very distinguished company. Mary Boland, Elliot Cavett, Kenneth McGowan, a really good company, and they were doing a thing called the Tsarina the following week. And nobody told me to leave, so I sat down in the audience, and I waited and waited and waited, and finally, 5 hours passed. And I nearly died. I got excited. I had to go to the John. It was pitch dark. I felt my way around trying to find a ladies' room. Finally did. Came back, sat down. And Eddie Knopf was always sitting right up in the front of the audience watching this dress rehearsal. And finally just walked by me and said, report for rehearsal Monday.
And that's how you got
That's how I got my job.
Is that the...
I didn't say how much or anything. So I got my job and was given a nice little part in the Tsarina. Went for the costume thing at the end of the week. And they said, come at 10 to pick your costume. So I got there at 9:45. I thought, boy, I'm being smart. All the girls were there. All the good clothes were gone. And it was, you know, sort of bouffant skirts.
Yeah.
And I was a lady in mating. Pardon me. See, I'm a bit nervous.
Do you believe
a
in...
lady, a lady in waiting. Do I believe in? You couldn't keep quiet. I know.
No, I
you
know. I was going to...
You just had to
ask
interfere.
you believed in Freudian slips when you said that, but go, carry on.
Yes, I do.
You were a lady in waiting and...
Freudian slips. Well, there was no Freudian slip for me that wasn't this short. So, a little girl in the company came up to me and she said, Katharine, I got here at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I have the best costume. And I think you're someday going to be a big star. And I'm going to get married in 2 weeks. And I want you to take my costume, because the one you have looks silly on you. And I nearly fainted, and I looked at her, and I thought, if you have any character, you'll say, you're terribly sweet, but I can't do it. But I didn't. I said, do you mean that? She said, yes. I said, thank you very much. Let me try it on. And I took it.
Who was that woman?
I don't know.
What a great story.
Isn't that a wonderful story?
And to this day, you don't
Well,
know
to
who-
this day, see, people have been terribly sweet to me.
Yeah.
But that was really kind.
Yeah.
Because I was stuck with something that I had a long, scrawny neck then,
That's right.
still, worse now. And, you know, I was tall and I looked like a perfect fool. And I could have tried to fix it up, but I couldn't. And I got very good notices in a small part. Then I had to play something like the night hostess in a thing, Torchbearers. Played a, you know, a wicked woman and was a big flop. And thought, better go and learn to talk, because I would get so excited that my voice would shoot way up in the top of my head, and I wouldn't know what I could do. I could start, but I couldn't. It just went up, you know, and I'd lost total control. And with 1 ounce of encouragement from the audience, I talked so fast that nobody could understand a word I said.
Well, when was it you actually studied acting then?
I never studied acting.
Never?
Well, I studied with quite a number of people. I studied with Francis Robinson Duff in New York. I studied voice, and you used to blow a candle out. So you'd have and feel her diaphragm go in. I never understood a word of it. I'd blow, and I was so excited, I'd blow from here, and I'd lose my voice every time I played, because I was petrified.
I did too.
And I kept, well, I can help you. I could see that by your dressing table.
I have a feeling we're going to get around
all
to that.
the tragic remedies of the actor's big worry, you know, which is, can I talk?
My voice, yeah.
Can I walk?
Exactly.
Can I move?
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the can I move in real life stage.
But that
And
fear,
it's amazing how grateful you are if you can just do what you're supposed to do.
just the minimum things, move, talk, and
Well,
walk.
move,
isn't it?
talk,
Yeah,
walk,
isn't it?
or breathe.
But
And the trouble is you can't breathe, you know, and this would terrify me. Well, I decided I would study with Francis Robinson Duff. And my father, who had no interest at all in a theatrical career, he said, you're awful good off the tee at golf because people are watching you, so you show off. But you're no good up near the green because the audience is gone. And I said, well, Daddy, I don't think this is that. And he said, well, it's one step from the streets as far as I'm concerned. And he said, it's an unhealthy profession. So when I took this job, I had no money. So when I wanted to have lessons, I had no money. And they were, you know, it was about $10 an hour or something like that. It was quite expensive, Frances Duff. She was the best teacher there was. And so I wrote Dad and said, would you back me? in lessons. And he wrote me and said that he was making a certain amount of money winning bets on the golf course, and he considered that that was bad money, so he'd send it to me.
Oh, that's
to
great.
use for my lessons.
Yeah. And he didn't try to discourage you because the business was immoral? He seemed to think it was.
He didn't certainly encourage me. He didn't
Yeah.
say, honey, I think you're going to be a great star.
You think
I think Mother was glad to see me do something rather than marry.
Yeah.
She was a real feminist, and she thought, move
Yeah.
on.
Did she actually carry placards and get arrested and all
Yes,
those things?
yes.
That's how I
Yes,
picture her
yes.
from what
Yes,
I've read.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And have you been encouraged by the women's movement to get out on the streets and carry the signs?
No,
and,
because we did that, a very, very long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think that is a strange situation because women and men simply are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not the same. And women, unfortunately, have to bear the children.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with them? And I think they're men who are all the same and all, well. And then there are women like me who have lived like men.
Knew what you wanted.
Well,
went out
I
and
knew
got
that
it.
I was brought up in a big family, and I was brought up great, just brought up great. I had a fascinating mother, a fascinating father, and a wonderful childhood.
How
I
lucky
really
you.
did. And I have a wonderful family now, and I have my roots in the same place that I was brought up, and I'm extraordinarily lucky, and that's just luck.
It's just
isn't it?
luck.
It's just luck.
That's the thing about you, I have a feeling that millions of people think the following about you. She knows how she wants to live her life. She's succeeded at it. It's all worked out. She got what she wanted. And they feel that you probably have some guiding principles, some secret, that if only they knew them, they could be as successful and as content as you seem to be. But you say it's luck, that there aren't 2 or 3 rules.
No, I think it's, in the first place, it's lucky if you have an intelligent and brilliant and inspiring father and mother.
Yeah.
And it's lucky if you've had experiences before the age of 15 which teach you not to be afraid, because fear is what we all suffer from. I mean, fear is what you and I suffer from, trying to be fascinating, which is an asinine position to be in, really. Here I am, and aren't I great department, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And you're never sure that you can do it. But if you have been taught basic freedom from fear and a basic belief in what you're doing that is sufficient to carry you when everyone and his uncle thinks you're wrong, and you still think, well, God damn it, I don't think I'm wrong. I think I'm right, and I'm going to do it. Or if you're, sort of inspired by something, for instance, doing this. Now, I disapprove of doing this. I think the story of my life is, how the hell could I tell the story of my life? I can't tell you the things, and wouldn't think of it, that have made me do this or this or this at certain periods, because then I would be fixing it so that you knew my secret.
Yeah.
And my secret is what pushes me on, and each one of us has a secret, and you go to Montauk and you try to rebuild your secret, and I go to the mouth of the Connecticut River in my childhood, and I try to rebuild mine, all to give us confidence to push on. Now, I say lucky because I was born with energy. I was lucky to be born with a combination of qualities that were apparently interesting in the early 30s, when I began to sort of look around and be noticed.
Yeah.
Even before that, when I was a kid in a golf tournament, and I sunburned a lot and got blisters, and I had to have 2 caddies, one to carry an umbrella, and I'd get the headline on the sport page, Hartford youngster. Do you know what I mean? I was just lucky to apparently be colorful.
And you have this thing about being able to conquer fear. Do you have a lot of fear, though? Does it scare you to start a new movie?
Yes, I think it is.
Scare you to
I
start a
think
new
it
play?
it terrifies anybody who's intelligent to do anything. I think I've been absolutely petrified all my life, and as I'm totally one track, I look at the thing and just hope I'm going to drop dead before it happens. How I ever opened in Cocoa, I don't know. And in the lake in 1933, which I came back to kind of punish myself because I have a sort of Puritan streak and think, you know, if it hurts, it's doing you good, or if it's hard, it's better for your character, or some cuckoo thing.
Bill's character.
Bill's character, you know.
Yeah.
And I had hit it lucky in the movies, and I had a wonderful part, a wonderful director, and an angel, Jack Barrymore, who just would push me toward the camera in a part that everybody had made a hit in. That was just lucky, you know. I mean, how the hell could you call it anything else?
Yeah. A lot of people will be damn glad to know that you've been afraid of things because you sometimes
well, I
give
think
the
the whole
impression
human
of
race is petrified.
Yeah.
I'm a good cover-upper.
We have to take a message and we'll be right back. I keep, I should tell this, I suppose. When I talked to you on the phone the other day, you suggested that I take a boat into New York because I was out of town.
Yeah.
And you said, because there's always the chance you'll drown. And I knew you didn't really, really want to go on television like that. And then you said, then there's a chance that you would be killed, and then I could get a lot of people together to say how sweet you are.
Yes,
You thought
why
that
don't
would-
you just say how sweet I am?
I'm willing to say it, and
I'm here, but I'm liable to drop dead any minute. So keep going.
I'll put it in writing if you'd like that. But I know that one of the reasons you were willing to put yourself through it was the American Film Theater, AFT, I guess people are going to call it.
Yeah.
And I happen to know that you did a movie for them, and that this is a revolutionary idea, really, that a man named Eli Landau seems to have dreamed up.
Yeah.
And people, stop me if I'm wrong, people all around the country will get a chance to subscribe in 400, I think there are...
500 theaters, 400 places.
In 400 cities, 500 theaters.
Yeah.
And they will get to see 8 movies,
That's right.
and it's something like $30.
Remarkable movies, remarkable actors.
And you did one at a price that your agent must have fainted dead
No,
away
no, no.
at.
Well, that's not unusual for me. If it interests you, they don't need to pay you. It's a fascinating business anyway. It's very nice to be paid. But when you do thrilling material, it's like buying a piece of furniture that's really good. When you buy it and it's great, you get enormous pleasure out of seeing it, and you never remember how much it costs. That's the one thing you really forget.
I always never buy it. I always go the other way and regret it. I'm glad to...
Yes, well, that's stupid. But these...
Thank you.
Well, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I've got the furniture.
I wish I'd met you years ago. I'd have done a lot of things
Yeah,
right.
well, you'd have a lot of good furniture when you could get it for a small price. I have to say, you can get these movies.
Yeah.
They will be shown 4 performances, 2 matinees and 2 evenings each month.
Yeah.
1 picture, 2 pictures, 3 pictures, 4 pictures over a period of 8 months.
Yeah.
One of those I'm in, so I hope you'll go and see that.
And that's
And
called...
that's A Delicate Balance,
by
Edward Albee's play.
Edward Albee's play.
And it's a play which ordinarily wouldn't be done. It's a part which ordinarily one would not get an opportunity to play, which is true of all the properties which Eli has collected. And I have the feeling that the American audience is not so stupid that they like constantly to be played down to. And, you know, fed the same old junk time after time, which is going further and further and further in what direction, nobody knows. But it is not necessarily the product of the brilliant writers in this country and other countries who are available, and also of actors. Now, you can hire any actor for a brilliant part for a little amount of money.
But your agent...
Well, anyone.
faints.
I don't know. The agents even have finally come to that. And I do think that it is terribly important in our country to try to improve our product. Improve our product so that an audience can go and say, well, yes, I've seen his plays, I've seen her plays, I've seen this one's plays, and I've seen so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so in them. They're movie productions, they're brilliant directors, they're brilliant properties, they're wonderful parts, and they're thrilling.
When I first heard
They
about
do
it...
make sense. Maybe that's a disadvantage today, I don't know.
When I first heard about it, I was afraid it was one of those things they always seem to experiment with, where they try to film a play on the stage.
No, not dull. I mean,
And
like the
it's not-
Philadelphia Story. I've done a million of them. Bill of Divorcement,
Right.
Philadelphia Story. I've done many, many plays.
But you know what I mean, as if they set a camera out there and
Yes,
tried to
I
film
think
a play.
that can be dull, and I think it
And,
can be static. But these
not that.
have not been done that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be interested. Otherwise, you and I have been wasting a lot of time because we've been sitting here talking. Now, either we're bores, because they can turn us off.
True.
But if we've been interesting, I don't really care whether I'm standing up or sitting down in a scene. If the material is interesting enough for people to look at, I really don't think I have to shoot you dead.
So
Maybe
keep-
I should, though.
Keep them excited.
To have it exciting.
You're
you
here
know,
now. You don't have
or
to.
take my stuff.
You don't have to do away. What is that? Is that a drug?
Never you mind.
I'll reveal what it is some other
But
night.
they're very, very interesting products. I've worked for Eli through the years, so he and I are old friends. And he's done me a few favors. One of the reasons I felt I should do this, and I don't know why. I couldn't think of any good reason not to appear on television, so now I've appeared on television. I've crossed that bridge. But Eli did something very kind to me, nothing to do with anything, but he did me a real favor, and I thought, how do you pay back a real favor? Pay back a real favor by doing a favor, you know?
We have to take a pause. We will be right back after this pause. Stay with us. I guess I got a kind of kick when you said Jack Barrymore, because it means you really knew him. And if I say Jack Barrymore, it sounds silly. Of course, I never even saw him. He was nice to you.
He was absolutely sweet,
Yeah.
as has been every actor I've ever met in my life.
That's what I wondered about. A young girl coming to Hollywood, it has to be a threat to the old heads out there, you know. And I wondered if they would really help you, or if they would look like they were helping you, but not give you their real secrets, like keep one eye this way, or...
Well,
you know.
I think everybody has brains enough to be aware of the threat, shall we say?
Sure.
You know, and yet people. Now, for instance, in Art and Mrs. Bottle, which was by Ben Levy, in which I was fired, and then they looked at every other ingenue in town, and came back to me and rehired me, and I made them raise my pay $25 a week
For putting you
because
through
they'd
that.
insulted me, you know, hurt my dignity.
Good for you.
Jane Cowell must have known that the ingenue part was 1,000,000 times better than the star part. She carried it, and I took it,
Yeah.
you know.
And there was no sabotage, no...
She was an absolute angel. Everybody said she waved her handkerchief, you know, and did a lot of things, like you wiggling that white foot when I'm trying to be fascinating. But she didn't, and she made me up.
Yeah.
Was terribly nice. I didn't used to wear any makeup, and Ben Levy didn't like my looks at all. He thought I was absolutely awful in this part. And he said, my God, what does she do? Polish her face with yellow kitchen soap every morning? And she took me in, and she said he's used to English girls, you know, who present themselves in a softer way. So she tried to soften me up, but I got fired anyway.
We've always heard stories about powerful leading ladies who said, get rid of that new kid. You know,
Never,
she's
never,
gonna-"
never.
Never happened to you?
Never, never. Leslie Howard fired me. He said, get rid of that kid fast.
What'd you do to
I
him?
said, well, I didn't do anything to him, but I was an inch taller than he was.
That's unforgivable.
Finally, I took off my shoes and sort of bent my knees, but I didn't know enough to support someone.
Yeah.
You see, I was out for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
And when a big star plays something, they want a little support. Just the way you and I now, we're vying with each other because you have the responsibility of coming back next week. And I'm bound I'm going to snag this week, you see. So it's a good, you know, it's a question of sort of, mind you, it's your business to present someone.
Sure.
But it's also the business of a group of actors to sort of cater to the central character,
Sure.
as they very charmingly did in Coco.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The setup. It's a setup.
Are you telling me that if I'm smart, I'll keep quiet and not move?
No.
Oh, okay. Was Jack Barrymore funny? Was he a funny man to be around?
Well, when I can see I don't stick to the subject, you see, I
Oh,
go to embroidery.
Either do I.
When I went out to California, I was on a train, and it took 3 or 4 days to get there in those days. And I went out on the back platform to look at the moon, and I got a steel filing in one eye, which immediately became bright red, and had a piece of filing embedded in the white of the eye. Now, I'm sort of blondie red, so my eyes are very, very sensitive, and they get red if you think red, you know. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking red all the time. So this eye then went, and when I got off the train, I had a very fancy costume on, the first pancake hat, dead straight hair, 2 bloodshot eyes. And I thought the place was the queerest place I'd ever been in my life, you know. So I went to George Cukor's office, who was directing, George Cukor was directing Bill of Divorcement. And Jack Barrymore came to the office, and he looked at me, and he looked me dead in the eyes, and he said, "Come out here with me, Katharine." So I went out into the hall, and he said, "You did a wonderful test. You're going to be a big star." And then he looked at me, and he took me by the top of the arms, and he said, "I have that trouble, too." And I said, "Mr. Barrymore, I have something in my eye." He said, yes, I know, honey. Just 2 drops of this, and nobody will know a thing."
Did you ever convince him you weren't alive?
Well, I don't know. We never discussed it again. But I thought that was terribly funny.
That's nice. We have to take a message, and then we'll be right back. Can you remember a time when you didn't want to be an actress, or did it hit you over the head at an early age?
Well, I wanted to be a doctor. And I wanted to be a surgeon, because my father was a surgeon.
Yeah.
And then I didn't go to school. About 5 years before I went to Bryn Mawr, I tutored, because I liked to play golf. And I would drive all around Hartford to various tutors, and I couldn't pass physics. And in those days, you had, Bryn Mawr would accept college boards plus extra points. Uh-huh. And I studied. I got about 55 in the physics exam. I was fair in the other things, because my mind was absolutely, I didn't know where I was. You know, I was just flying through the air from the time I was about 12.
But you were having a good time.
Well, I don't know what I was having, but I was having it bad, you know, just a super sort of charge. And I studied all summer long on physics and improved 7 points and got a 62 and was let into Bryn Mawr.
60 was passing.
60 was passing in those days. Yeah. And then I did my first year, and I was really mediocre, and I had never been with girls before, and I was absolutely petrified. And I can remember I was from a small town, and I had a modest amount of money, and I had really been brought up pretty much with adults. Yeah. Because we had an interesting family, you know, and we'd sit around. I had an older brother who had died, and then myself. And I used to sit around with the family, and I never spoke. You'd never gather that from the way I'm carrying on now.
You were the
now
quiet
I got
one?
my chance. No, everybody was quiet, because the really interesting people spoke. Yeah. And I didn't have anything to say that was considered too interesting, you know.
I don't know why I picture the Hepburn dinner table in those days as being debates going on.
Yes, I think there was, but I think there were a hell of a lot of other people there at the same time, you know.
Were you encouraged to argue with your parents?
Yes, I think so, but not idiotically.
On a subject?
Not idiotically, and I think a lot of the kids today are pompous to a degree because they don't listen at all. Yeah. Now, I think by the same token, I had the nerve to go out and do something on my own, but you've got to listen. And nobody listens. People are so anxious to talk. Yeah. I've only got a few more years left to talk in, so I'm doing the best I can. But, I mean, if you start talking at 14, then you can't be listening at 14, can you?
That's right. The time for listening
it's a fine line. And anyway, at Bryn Mawr, then in my sophomore year, I had a burst appendix, or a very bad appendix that had to be operated on. And my marks went down. They didn't have to go down far. And Helen Taft Manning, who was the dean, wrote Dad and said, "I would advise you to take Kath out of college. I don't think it suits her." And Daddy wrote back and said if I had a patient in the hospital who was ill and I didn't know what the matter was, I wouldn't send her home. So they kept me.
Yeah. I wondered if you were a good student.
And then, no, bad student, because I was so thrilled with life.
Yeah.
that I couldn't concentrate. And I find that now I can concentrate on, certain things that interest me enormously, but I'm totally one track.
Can you concentrate on things you should have concentrated on then? Can you now read a book that seemed boring then? Or can you now study physics with a certain interest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel that way too.
If one can make the connection, you see, then it's enormously vivid to me.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'm in a sort of a daze, but there's so much, the world's so full of fascination.
Were you campused ever or given demerits? Were you one of those people who didn't like authority?
I was, now what do they call it? Not fired, not expelled, the temporary thing.
Put on probation or something like that?
For smoking. And I didn't smoke. So I didn't know the rules about smoking. I wouldn't have thought of smoking. And somebody gave me a package of perfume cigarettes, and I thought, I wonder what these are like. And I sat in there smoking. And somebody came up to me and said, haven't you something to say? I knew what they were talking about.
Your first crime, you were caught.
Not my first crime. That was my second crime.
Oh. Well,
my first crime. My first crime was breaking into houses.
You too? I love to break into houses.
Yes, absolutely fascinated me. I could get in anywhere. The only time I nearly lost my life was dropping through a skylight. And I damn near dropped from the top of the roof, and it was a 3-story house, high, down to the first floor. That was my first mistake.
You didn't know it was there and you stepped
No,
out?
I didn't see it clearly.
Yeah.
But they used to have icebox entrances, for the iceman to put the ice through. That was a very vulnerable point.
How recently was this?
Well, this was when I was a child. It wasn't yesterday. No, well, I was about 15. Yeah. And I had a friend, a girl, and I used to dare do anything with her. She had great nerve. She'd just sort of do things. And I'd get excited, and I was the second-story man. I could climb anything, you see, and get in and open the door. But she was the, the sort of head of the mafia. She was she had nerve to burn. She'd do anything. Then she got a beau.
Uh-oh.
And the beau was a bad lot. And the beau, we had a house we couldn't get into. So he joined us and said, well, break down the door. I said, you can't break down the door. That's destruction. He said, you want to get in? Break down the door if you can't get in any other way. Well, we let ourselves be persuaded. Of course, the neighbors next door in a house my sister now lives in heard this terrible noise, and we were using a big log and running against the back door. Insanity. And we finally broke the thing down and went in and took a great big box of body powder with one of those feathered puffs and threw it all around, went mad, and then left, all observed by the cook next door. So when I put on my bathing suit, and nothing was said for a week, and I thought, boy, they haven't found out yet, but it's a mess, so they're going to see it. And all the other places were neat. They were back. I stole one thing in one of the places, and then I put it back, because guilt overcame me. And that was a wooden crocodile that was about this long that I saw. We used to use this place as a sort of office, because it was easy to get into. Yeah. And it was a carved crocodile, and you screwed up the tail, and it cracked a nut.
Cracked
And I thought it was thrilling, and I stole it, and then I couldn't think of anything but that foolish crocodile.
Couldn't sleep?
And I took it and put it back.
God.
But this boy, you see, it engaged us in a real crime. So finally I saw the sister of the owner of the house coming toward me as I walked down toward the pier for a Sunday swim, and she said, Kathy, haven't you something you'd like to tell me? And I looked at her, and my heart sank. And I said, no, I have nothing to tell you. And I ran out to the end of the pier, and my friend was out on the raft, and I dove in, swam over, and I said, they've caught us. Swim for shore. So then, of course, Dad had to pay the bill.
And that was your first crime?
That was it. That was the first crime that was discovered, yes.
And
I gave up crime.
More or less.
More or less.
We'll get to your later crimes after this message. I'm back talking to Katharine Hepburn, a promising actress who recently had a job with the American Film Theater. I keep thinking about you going alone to Hollywood at what age?
You're trying to pin me down.
Approximately.
Go on.
Between
Continue.
what and what?
1932.
You were quite a young woman to be cast
Fairly young woman.
into a sinful place like Hollywood. Did you have a protector?
I had a great friend, Laura Harding, who went with me
Yeah.
to seek my fortune.
Did your parents give you any advice, like don't accept rides from strangers or any of that stuff?
No. My family never gave me any of that sort of advice.
They weren't worried about what you might have.
No, they thought if I hadn't brains enough to handle myself, it was just too bad.
Yeah. This may be an impossible kind of question, but I was just wondering why...
I think my mother only just didn't want me to get married and wanted me to, see what I was worth in the world.
She was very active with Margaret Sanger in birth control.
Yes, and also woman suffrage. And Dad was was one of the real starters of the social hygiene movement in America, which was the fight against venereal disease.
Yes.
And I think, my goodness, at that age, it wouldn't even be a point of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were there to get me out of trouble if I was dumb enough to get into trouble,
But there was no weeping about your going away and...
No. But I mean, they were all, I can't stress enough the strength it gives a kid to have someone interested, and the strength it gives me to have someone interested. I've got Phyllis who's interested, and I've got my brothers and sisters, but my mother and father were always there at tea time when I came back, and what did you do? Where did you go? What happened then? But they neither of them ever came to Hollywood. They never butted in. It was just there to say, my gosh, you're fascinating, aren't you? Wonderful, Isn't it great what you're doing?
And you always knew you had a bedroom back home if you wanted to come home and...
Yes, and the first week or two that I was in Hollywood, I got all my money in cash, and I put it in the bureau drawer, and I spent it all. And Dad said, where's the money? We'd better put it in the bank. And I said, it's gone. So he said, you better have them send it to me. So until the day he died, he took my money and sent me an allowance.
Is that right? Right up to recent,
yeah, right
last
up
few
to
years?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he died in 1962.
What were the traps for an actress in those days? Because a lot of people went under and
well, I think if they went
tragically.
under, I was a girl I played in a thing called The Warrior's Husband, and I made a big hit.
On Broadway?
Yes. And the play itself was so-so, and it was Bad Times, 32. And I had a lot of movie offers, because I was lucky enough to photograph quite well. And in the big pond that I told you I was kicked out of, my pictures came to New York with the big pond. And I had been playing a leading part so that I was seen by all the New York producers who saw shows in, and a lot of the heads of the movie companies here who saw shows in Great Neck. And I played it one night, was bounced. But, so I had the attention of a lot of important people.
You mean photographs of you came to New York?
Photographs of me came to New York.
Yeah.
And they were charming. I'll send you some. They were hilarious, but they were okay,
Okay. Before we go on, who was it who referred to your cheekbones as the greatest calcium deposits this side of Dover? Don't tell me I'm telling you that for the first time.
I never heard it.
Well,
I heard Dorothy Parker said, let's go to the Martin Beck Theater. This was in the lake, and see Kate Hepburn run the gamut, G-A-M-U-T-T-T-T-T, of emotion from A to B.
I know. That's
I heard.
One of the great put-downs of all time. How did you have the nerve to go on the next night, or did you ignore that?
I hardly did. That was the most petrifying experience I ever had. Now, that was interesting, because I had done 4 pictures in 1 year in Hollywood, and they said, Dusa Bernhardt, this wonderful, beautiful young thing who's in our midst, and I could do no wrong. I'd won the Academy Award. Right. And I had sent them a wire through my agent, Leland Haywood, to say that I didn't believe in awards, and that I really didn't feel that I should compete. Some pompous, asinine thing, Mm-hmm. And he just put the wire in his pocket and said, thank you very much, that I was deeply honored. So there I was. He just changed the wire because he thought it was childish.
You never, let's see, have you ever picked up an Oscar in person?
No. Too gutless.
Won't go?
Well, too gutless.
No.
Just.
You don't scorn the award?
No, afraid I wouldn't win it. It must be that. It couldn't be anything else.
The thought of
or that I have no dress. But I mean,
There are rumors that you have no dress.
well, I have no dress.
But I know you do because I've seen you in
No,
one.
I have no dress, and it's, my father said about his children, he said, my children are very shy. When they go to a party, and this would include that, they're afraid they're going to be neither the bride nor the corpse.
I think you
Now
should do
you
a
can
book of
figure
your...
that out.
You should
so
do a book of your father's
my
quotes.
father and mother's quotes.
Oh, when we come back, I'm going to bring you back to the traps for a young girl in Hollywood in those days. We have a message and we'll be right back.
No traps for me.
I guess what I was trying to ask there was why you held body and soul together in Hollywood where so many ended up tragically.
Well, I think I was on a firm foundation.
Yeah.
And you know, what goes in has to come out. Where people, you cannot have it all. You see? I mean, then if you achieve success, you have to maintain it. If you fail, then you have to try to succeed. And you certainly can never be helped by liquor, and you never can be helped by dope. You just can't be. And if you haven't got health, I don't care what profession you're in. I mean, all of us just think of your own profession. And if you're wandering around in a stupor and have 5 minutes where you feel fascinating and you're a bore to the man who's sober, I don't see the point in that, you know? I mean, you have to, here we are, we're given this. Now, here I am, and I've been here quite a long time. You're too young to look at yourself and say, well, the feet have a few more steps in them. One leg's a bit shaky, you know. I keep bumping myself. I don't know what that means. I need glasses now to see. Certain things have maintained themselves. My teeth are pretty good. I can still hear. I can see pretty well. And I still seem to have a wild amount of energy. It shakes the boat a bit once in a while, but I can still go on. Now, I've maintained that machine as well as I could possibly maintain it. And I tried, deliberately this was, in the beginning, I said, don't get spoiled. Don't dress up. Don't get an expensive car. Don't get a lot of fancy habits that you can't maintain if you flop, because the contrast then you're going to have to carry.
You've kept it simple, like your wardrobe.
I kept it, yeah, well, the wardrobe is a self-indulgence, isn't it? That everybody's been smart enough to copy, but nevertheless,
That's right.
a self-indulgence.
Yeah.
Because it is comfortable, and it's nice to be comfortable. I'm clean. Well, I try to be clean.
You look clean.
Well, it's all washable. Washable, drip dry.
You don't smoke?
I don't smoke now. I did smoke.
I remember you smoked
I was a
in
heavy
pictures.
smoker. No, yes, that's what started me being a smoker. I never smoked before. I smoked in one picture, became an absolute chain smoker overnight. Loved it, loved it.
How does that fit in with your health theories?
Well, I was younger then. Maybe I didn't have so many health theories, you see. Then you begin to get health theories when you realize it could go bad. But I had to maintain my vitality. Because I hate the feeling of being kind of doing half as well as I can do. I mean, perfection is thrilling, and you practically never achieve it. I mean, I can look back on my career now and say, well, lucky, pretty good, not bad, you know, moments of real interest.
How'd you quit smoking?
I just stopped.
You set a day?
No, I didn't set any day. I began to realize, in the first place, when I was a kid and smoked, and I started to play tennis in California, and I was a real tennis addict, I noticed that I couldn't really keep it up, you know. And if I didn't smoke at all during the day, I could play 6, 7 hours, and it didn't bother me at all. And we used to play all Sunday. I was a golfer by trade, because I was a trained golfer, and I was pretty good when I was about 14.
Yeah.
But then in California, they didn't allow ladies on the court, on the course on Sunday. And I used to belong to a thing called Bel Air, and I'd go on Sunday anyway and say, throw me off, you know, it's my only free day. So they let me play.
You defied them to throw you
I
off.
defied them, and then I thought, well, this takes too long, so I turned to tennis, and I love tennis.
Yeah.
I think it's a great game. You can just, you know, play yourself into exhaustion.
I've seen you play.
I find this fascinating. Yes, not very good.
You don't know this, but I saw you play. There's a hotel that you play behind.
Yes, that's right.
I won't reveal which
The
one
Bel
it is.
Air. I mean, the Beverly Hills.
That's right.
Yes, for 1,000 years.
I watched you for a long time.
Yeah.
And
I've improved.
well, you were good enough that day, and I came by and I noticed your car was sitting
No,
there.
I'm not good, and I'll tell you how you know when you're good and when you're not good.
You're a little choppy.
A little. No, the terrible thing is, in sports, people will look at me along the street and everything, and oh, you're so fascinating, but they'll look at you on the tennis court for about 2 seconds, and they'll say, oh, she can't play. And they leave.
Right.
It's absolutely fascinating.
And they feel a lot
and
better.
withering.
They feel a lot better.
But it's a sensational game.
I
But
thought
I
you were
noticed
fun.
that I didn't last then. And then when I began to play Shakespeare, I noticed that I didn't have the what it takes. Oh, I didn't have it. I couldn't last. And if I was taking care of anybody and I had to really last and maybe be up all night and not get any sleep, I noticed that if I took no liquor and no cigarettes, I could get 2 hours sleep and be absolutely wake up fresh and be alive. So I think it smothers you. Now, I don't think it smothers everybody.
I don't press this, but millions of people are trying to quit and probably would love to know how you did. Did you have the pangs?
I cut it out. I never smoked before breakfast in my life. And I cut it out. First, I cut out the cigarette after breakfast. Then I cut out the cigarette after lunch. Then I cut out until tea time. Then I cut out until after dinner. Then when I was playing a heavy part, I cut out until after the show. But the minute I started, it's like a box of candy. I couldn't stop. I was an absolute dope fiend.
Yeah.
Smoke, 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 smoke. Couldn't stop. I had to go to bed. Couldn't even, I'd look at you and I'd think, oh, bore, I want to smoke. And then I just stopped. I thought, this is so asinine. But it did begin to affect me. Now, I smoked when I was with people, so I did all the difficult parts I cut out. On an interview, I would smoke. I cut that out.
Any place you needed as
Any
a
place that I needed it most, I cut it out.
Yeah.
And then I just stopped.
Let's hope you've helped some people with that. We have a message. We'll be right back. Miss Hepburn, are there secrets of screen acting? We were talking about that earlier. When your niece made a film, for example, are there mysterious little things you can say, like keep your downstage eye away from the camera at all times? Or any of
No,
that?
I don't think so. I think just concentration,
Yeah.
like anything else. Concentration and truth. And Spencer was the great artist at that. His concentration was pure. My concentration was very conscious of an audience for a long time.
Did he criticize you on that?
No, he didn't mention it, but I mean, I was aware of a certain sort of cheapness in what I did, because my concentration was not anywhere near as good as his.
By that, do you mean the people
He
around
and
you?
Lorette
the camera?
Taylor, I think, had the greatest. They were remarkable.
Yeah.
Both Irish, and a remarkable capacity to concentrate.
I heard an actor who played a scene with Tracy once say it was his first film, this actor's, and he said when the camera started rolling, I went blank because when Tracy spoke, I thought he was still talking to me.
Yes, well, I think that's true of a lot of people.
I didn't know
there
he was
was
acting.
a funny story when Spencer was doing Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and I don't think Sidney Poitier would mind my telling this story, but Sidney and I had already done a scene together, several scenes, and Sidney wasn't in the least nervous. And we were both excited, but not, anything. Then he had to go in and ask for the girl's hand in marriage.
Yeah.
And Spencer was sitting at his desk, and I was sitting on a bookcase sort of about as high as this thing in back of him. And Sidney came in, and he was a tremendous fan of Spencer's, as most actors were tremendous. They really knew that he knew what he was doing, and everybody, you had a lot to learn. I learned a tremendous amount from them. And that is to use the protection of concentration, to just do it, Don't embroider it, do it. Well, Sidney came on, and he looked at Spencer, and Spencer was just looking at him, and he went higher than a kite.
Just from that
And then he came on, and he finally did about 15 times, and he could not. Now, he has a brilliant memory, so this was just... So finally, Stanley Kramer said, well, we'll do it tomorrow. So in the morning, I called Spencer, and I said, can I pick you up? And he said, well, you're a bit early, aren't you? And I said, well, it's the first scene. They're going to redo the thing. And he said, I think Sidney would be a little happier without those two old owls looking at him. And I said, well, I think you're wrong. So I said, I'm going down. So I went down, but Spence was usually right about things. So I sent in a note to Stanley Kramer at 9:05 saying, I'm ready and I'm here. Do you wish me to come on the stage or stay in the building? And he wrote back quickly, stay away.
He did.
Oh, yes. So,
Your instinct was
he
good.
got over that
Yeah.
first, because they were doing a big head close-up of him.
Yeah.
And I know just how he felt. It's agony. If you work with someone whom you think is the real master at something.
And they're watching you over here.
And the purity of that concentration, because if the material is wonderful, and I learned this playing certain scenes in Shakespeare, that if I could really and truly concentrate, and if I could really speak English, and with truth, mind truth and heart's truth, hand a scene to an audience, that if they were concentrating, they would just take it. And I wasn't doing a lot of fancy stuff, you know. So I think really it's like any other form of art. Truly, to me, the kind of thing that I like is unembroidered and has heart's truth, so that it strikes right through and you say, oh, I understand what you mean, and you can apply it to different, which is why we like the theater, that you can take it from the actors and get something out of it. You can understand it. And the minute you hit, for a long time, I was too egotistical, I suppose, and too frightened to accept the fact that the audience, after all these years, had given me this, they'd given me their friendship, their undiluted, just friendship. We like you. You're nice, you know. And this was occasionally, not until Coco did I really understand. I thought they were my natural enemy and waiting for me to fall down or break my neck or be a flop.
Sure.
And I think that's what we all think. Don't let them trip you up, you know, get there, do it. I don't think that's true. It certainly hasn't been true with me from the time of that little girl.
They've meant well.
They've tried to help me.
Yeah.
They've tried to help me. And they are, now of course, I say I'm like an old ash can. You pass it every day. You're very grateful to it, you know. And they remove it and you say, we didn't want a new ash can. That's perfectly good, that old thing. We'll take that.
That concentration you talked about, though, it seemed that Tracy had it more than almost anybody. I don't think you can find a false moment in his career on the screen.
It was the truth.
Yeah. How did he learn that?
And I think he just did it. I think he found life extremely difficult, as most of the Irish do. You know, they're enormously imaginative. And then he spoke with his heart. Yeah. And he spoke with tremendous simplicity. You know, he played villains. Bogey played Mother's darling with the briefcase and going home to Mama and giving her his salary check. And Spencer played villains.
It's hard to believe that.
Yes, truth, the truth.
It's turned around.
Yes, the picture that he did with Jack Ford. Jack Ford gave Spencer his first job. Jack Ford died on Friday. And
I didn't know that.
Yes, he died. He died after his, he and Bogey just died like gentlemen, you know, with great courage and great distinction. And he was a remarkable man, and he came and he saw Spencer, and Spencer had been tested by everyone and his uncle. So he said, my God, they said, you can't take him. He's a great actor, but his ears stick out, his nose is too big, and you can't photograph him. And Ford said, well, I can look at him. Why can't I photograph him? And they say, well, you put a makeup on him, and he's absolutely hopeless. And they said, well, why put the makeup on?
He had an answer for all this.
So he didn't, Spencer wasn't wearing makeup on the stage. And a man named Chester Erskine, who had produced The Last Mile, which Ford saw Spencer in, didn't have any of the actors wearing makeup. So Spencer never wore makeup.
Sometimes the simplest answer is the best. I see that in you.
And then he said to Larry once, because their method was totally different, and I think Larry Olivier, each one brilliant, and Spencer said to Larry, who do you think they're going to think you are, Larry? You know, and this was this was two different theories.
Meaning they'll know you're Olivier.
Well, I mean, they're going to know who you are.
Yeah.
Look out.
Who do you think
you
they'll
had
think you
that
are?
nose, do anything you want to, you know. But it was two brilliant performances. It was the whole range of what an actor can do and be. And you have to find the thing that suits you, I think. And then as an audience, you find the thing that you can connect with.
Mhm.
Well, obviously, you can connect with someone who's familiar to you, can't you? If they're totally different, you really don't.
Yeah.
But if you feel, oh, that might be me, and I think the reason people have an affection for me now is that in a kind of a way, I must have lived a life that a lot of women think would be a nice life to have lived.
Yes.
They think it's dignified, but they think it's free. And they think it's, I've done what I wanted to. They don't bother to think that they may have 5 children that I haven't. I had brains enough to know you can't have it all. Because I was brought up in a very happy family. And I thought, if my concentration is going to be in the theater and is a business career, I cannot have any children because I was brought up where Mother was there, as I said, telling me how wonderful I was.
You didn't want to be an
And
absentee.
I was telling her how wonderful I was, too. It's a different temperament.
Oh, I hope you can stay the rest of the week. We'll be right back after this message. Should I envy people who had brothers and sisters? I always
Yes,
do.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Envy them.
I do. I'm sorry, in a way, that I was...
My brother told me not to appear on this show. He said they'll find out that you're a bore. He said they think you're great. Don't expose yourself.
Well, I'm sorry.
Because
and
he said you really have some awfully silly ideas.
And it's worth it, all that turmoil when you go that you go through as a kid.
And you know what he
competing
calls
with-
Montauk?
What?
Excuse me.
No.
Somebody said, where does he live? Doesn't he live at Talk Talk? So
Talk Talk?
Talk Talk. I think Talk Talk is a
I'm
wonderful place.
rather offended by that. But I guess as a kid, I always sort of liked the idea of kids having to compete with their brothers and sisters and being able to compare notes on how you feel about your parents and that sort of stuff. And
Keeps you very realistic.
Yeah, I think it would.
Yes.
Makes you a little tougher, I'd think, than it would if you don't have that. But,
Well,
I
they're
don't know.
apt not to think you're too thrilling.
Yeah.
They're sweet, but I mean...
They cut you down to size?
No, yeah, I think so. I mean, you're one of a group.
Yeah.
You're one of a group, so that you don't go away from that.
Yeah.
You know, you remain the sister. In my instance, I remain the older sister. I remain Aunt Cat to
Aunt
practically
Cat.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was sort of a loner, so I was Aunt Cat. Even to my sisters,
Yeah.
not to my brothers, but to my sisters, who are like my daughters. I'm a missing link. I am. I don't belong anywhere. I'm like my father and mother's, I don't know what, the extra one, you know. But I wasn't a child. It was a funny arrangement.
Are you considered the oddball of the family?
No, they're all much harder than I am.
They're arresting one of them right now. Did you hear that? Terrific. That's one of the things we deal with in this theater. We got the firehouse across the street. Wonderful consideration for the performers. There's only going to be one
What are you
track.
looking at?
I'm just
What?
I'm waiting for the siren to stop.
Oh, is the
Fire-
ambulance
fire
coming for
truck.
me?
I thought you had
Or
a-
the hearse, I don't know.
I thought you had a
which.
limousine.
So-
You drive yourself. don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I've seen you on the highway.
Well, I'm on the highway, but I love to drive in New York City.
Yeah.
Great place to drive.
It's another challenge.
Well, it is, yes.
Gee, I hate to say this, but we've come to the end of the time we have tonight.
You
And,
mean I'm finished? I can go.
Well, I hate
Thank
to...
you very much. I've had a lovely time. Bye-bye.
But can't you wait till I say goodnight?
No, you say good night. Good night.
I can tell you this. She will be back tomorrow night. Join us. Good night.